of Israel is behind us. People like myself were defeated. Maybe our rhetorics won, but their settlements won. People like Sari were removed from the mainstream political, both Palestinian and Israeli-Palestinian conversation. And as if the battle over the landhood is over, and you find more and more people, secular, nationalist, religious, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, who try to replace the icon of the Begin second chapter, the landhood, with the templehood. And what happens now vis-a-vis the Temple Mount, the same happened with the Palestinian side of seeing Al-Aqsa as the center of the conflict. But here I'm not addressing the Palestinian evolved Palestinian rhetorics, both Israeli-Palestinian and occupied territories Palestinian. But from the Jewish point of view, it's not about the technical status quo. It is not about who runs the place. Is it the Waqf? Is it the Husseinis? Is it the Nusseibehs? It's not about the technical status quo. It's about the approach, the attitude, the psychological and spiritual centrality that the Temple Mount and the Temple resurrection is taking in the life of the masses, from something esoteric, something bizarre, something strange at the farthest periphery of Israeli political discourse. It became mainstream government, Knesset, and you name it, rhetorics and discourse. These are the three chapters of Israel. The three chapters of Jerusalem are the same chapters, more or less. So this is where we are. Later on, if we shall have time, I will talk to you a little bit about the paradoxes or the political paradoxes of Jerusalem. But I would like to take it to, with your permission, to a bit, to two different places. What I describe now, which sounds eschatological, almost end of the days, Armageddon, whatever you call it. And then comes the question of, what are you? Are you an optimist or a pessimist? So we used to ask my mother, Mom, what are you? Are you an optimist or a pessimist? And she said, me? Of course I'm an optimist. Today is much better than tomorrow. So she had this kind of optimism. I have a little bit of a different kind of optimism, with your permission. Because I was born to a certain house the same way Sari was born to a certain house. He was born to a place which was the borderline, between and between. I was born to a place, the other side of the Prime Minister's dwelling, of whatever, residence of today. The name of the place is called Villa Lea. What is Villa Lea? The popular name of it was Beit Abikarius Bey, Abikarius Bey's house. What is this place? Abikarius was a Greek Orthodox lawyer who came to Israel with the administration of Allenby in 1917. He was a very tricky, canny lawyer who actually made most of the initial transactions between the Greek Catholic Church, Patriarch, and the Zionist, and sold us all the lands. He, during this process, fell in love with a girl from Mea Shearim named Leah Tenenbaum. Now, at the time, it was not very popular in his Mea Shearim to fall in love with an Arab, unlike today. Okay? So they had to move away from Mea Shearim to Rechavia, to where we are living today, which is 5 minutes drive by a car, at the time half an hour walk or whatever it was. And he built her this beautiful Bauhaus palace named Villa Lea. 2 years, the house was inaugurated in 1st of May 1934. I know, because there is a huge, beautiful stone plaque at the entrance to the house. In 1936, he was already bankrupt because she spent all of his money and ran away to London with an officer of the British Mandate, whom which she was exhausted by, and ran away with a high officer, Egyptian high officer, and then disappeared from our life. And I was born in the only house in Rechavia, which was the neighborhood of the Yekes intellectuals, coming from all over the place, Martin Buber and Akiva Eren Simon, and you name them, they were all, I mean, we all took the garbage to the same place. I mean, we actually took down the garbage down there, and the only non-Zionist, non-Yeke, non-Ashkenazi, non-intellectual home I was born in Beit Abikarius, the only Arab Christian house in Rehavia. And this is why I'm an optimist. But I'm an optimist in a kind of a different way. When I watch changes, I do not watch only what I told you about the ideological evolvement of what happens to Jerusalem, but about the existential realities as well. And I would like to share with you two anecdotes on to hang up. When I was a little boy, Jerusalem was quite a cosmopolitan Jewish city. We didn't see them, but everybody was walking the streets. Shai Agnon was walking the streets. Elze Schiller was walking the streets. Martin Buber, as I said, Gerhard Scholem, you name them, Shai Agnon. I mean, all the chevre were walking the streets of Jerusalem. At this Jerusalem, which was very secular, very intellectual, and very cosmopolitan, there was only one non-kosher butchery who sold pork. Name was Kranzdorf, and the butchery back wall was back to back with the Knesset. And I always, the old Knesset, I always wonder, is it a coincidence that the only pork place, the Chazerai place in Jerusalem is wall to wall with the Knesset? Then later on I became the Speaker of the House and I stopped joking about it, okay? But nonetheless, the thought is still there. Today, Jerusalem is much more monolithic, more orthodox, more traditionalist. I mean, many affluent, empty houses of American and French investors, but the city itself is not what it used to be. Very monolithic in appearance, but at the same time, there are so many movie halls open in Shabbat. There is whatever kind of non-kosher stuff you want to buy, you can buy it. Whatever kind of entertainment you want to, you can find in New York, or in Berlin, in Tel Aviv, you can find in Jerusalem. So on one hand, it is getting closer and closer, and as if self-sieged, but at the other hand, existentially speaking, it's an open place. It's an invitation. The people in Israel in general are not only the direction I described before. I described how the Zionist idea was narrowed down to the Temple Mount, and how landhood was replaced by templehood, and then is replaced by landhood, and now replaced by templehood. But it works the other way around. Among other felonies and Jewish sins I'm committing daily, and I do a lot of them, okay, is I do marriages. For your information,
talk about marriages.
Marriage, no, that's a funeral.
That's a marriage.
No, okay. Oh, okay. In Israel, the Jews can marry by the chief rabbinate only. And I used to tell my kids, listen, if you bring a rabbi from the chief rabbinate to your wedding, I'm not coming. Of course I would have come, okay? But I'm not coming. It's not the business of the chief rabbi to regulate your sex life. It's for the mayor and the Ministry of Interior to register you, and you should shape and design the content and the values of the ceremony the way you want it. So both my kids, all my kids adopted it, and out of it they're friends, and I'm doing a lot as a volunteer, something like 60 weddings a year. Here is a wedding of 2-3 months ago. Called me a friend, and he said, Avraham, I'd like you to marry my son. Who is this friend? His name is Nehemiah. Nehemiah is one of the most mythological paratrooper in Israel who fought and liberated Jerusalem in 67. He fought at the Givat HaTachmoshet, the ammunition hill, and he liberated the Wailing Wall. He is one of those heroes of Jerusalem, and he wanted me to marry his son Omri. I said, no problem. I was sitting with Omri, and we are preparing the wedding. It's a 2-month process, and I'm a real nudnik. I mean, I don't let them off. They have to learn the text, and they have to do it this and that. And then we come to the last chapter. in which the groom breaks the glass in memory of the ruin and the destruction of Jerusalem. Says Omri, I'm not going to break the glass. I said, okay. And he said, and you are not going to sing Im eshkachech Yerushalayim. If I will forget your Jerusalem, my right hand will be forgotten. Im eshkachech Yerushalayim. I said, what's going on here, Omri? He said, listen, give me a break. I had this Jerusalem bullshit from my father since day one. I don't buy this city. I don't buy the rhetorics of it. It does not define me. I want an alternative Jewish wedding with alternative Jewish content without this omnipresence of the destruction which does not exist anymore and the violence which defines the city nowadays. And we went for the wedding. The entire family, Bat Nehemiah, is a religious, observant family. Now imagine for all of these religious people to see me, I mean, bad news to begin with, marrying their beloved nephew under the chuppah, the canopy, without Jerusalem at the end of it. It was a beautiful wedding, and then the sister of Nehemiah called him the day after, and Nehemiah said, how was it? She said, it was awful. So he said, why do you say it was awful? So she said, it was so beautiful. It was so meaningful. I enjoyed every minute. So he said, what's the problem? So she said, now everybody can come and erase Jerusalem? And the answer is yes. That Jerusalem is to be erased. This one is yet to be written. Thank you very much.